You're listening to Careers and Cocktails, career talk with a twist, hosted by expert recruiter Renee Frey. Let's get this party started.
Hey party people, welcome to Careers and Cocktails. Today we have one of the most vibrant accountants you're ever gonna meet, Ben Flottemesch. Take it away.
Well, first, Renee, I gotta correct you. My real name is Leon, but
right.
all my friends call me Ben.
Right, and tell us about that. Ben, Leon.
Well, believe it or not, for a guy my size, I was the second fastest boy in my grade school class.
Oh, like running?
Yeah, the other guy wrestled 95, I wrestled heavyweight, and they called me Gentle Ben. So that's how I got
Ben. Fantastic. Well, tell us.
There were only two of us.
Okay, so before we get started making an awesome Moscow Mule, tell us a little bit about your background in history.
Well, I grew up on a farm in northwestern Minnesota on the edge of the Red River Valley, east of Fargo, and I can say, yeah, sure, you betcha, better than most.
Really? Because people everywhere I travel to, everyone says, you're from Minnesota. I said, oh my gosh, it must be the accent.
It must be. There's no accent. What can you say? Left the farm. I went to college in Duluth and got an accounting degree. I went to work for a small national firm. Left there 5 years later and joined another CPA that I knew. Moved to New Richmond, Wisconsin, the city beautiful. And we started our practice at that point in time, and it's now morphed into SFO consultants and advisors. And we have our main office in Minneapolis and still a small office up in New Richmond.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here. Let's have a cocktail, shall we?
All right.
So we have a Moscow Mule here, and this is a 3-ingredient drink, which makes it super easy to, when you have people coming over, to make and to whip up really quickly. So today we're using the Goose because that was what Ben had preferred, was Grey Goose vodka, which is also one of my favorites.
And I always feel there's nothing wrong with going first class as long as you don't get used to it.
And then we have fresh squeezed lime that we are going to put in. We're going to put in 2 ounces of vodka, a half an ounce of fresh squeezed lime, and then 4 ounces of ginger beer. And we have Krabby's Original. And I didn't realize most Moscow Mules are made with non-alcoholic ginger beer, and this is actually alcoholic. There's alcoholic ginger beer and non-alcoholic, so this might give us an extra kick. But to educate you guys a little bit on where the name came from, so they randomly, it's been tossed where it started either in Manhattan or was it LA where the Moscow Mule was originally created. However, they named it Moscow because a lot of vodka is associated with Russia, so hence Moscow. And then they added the mule because it said the ginger beer gives it a little kick. So a little history for you there. And sometimes people call it a vodka buck. So Moscow Mule, vodka buck, whatever. So we're going to take the Grey Goose and we are going to do 2 ounces per glass. Not the time that I screwed up with 4 ounces. Would you like me to help by opening this? Yes, please. Ben's going to open the beer and I'm going to do 2 ounces of vodka. 2 ounces in 1 cup. So you just pour the ingredients in the cup and then you just stir it up. So we'll have to get some straws for us. Okay, and then we need a half ounce of fresh lime. And I squeeze that myself, my hard labor coming through to fruition here. All right, and then 4 ounces. And I'm a super measurer because I'm a total enthusiast and I'm a rookie. So I measure everything. And sometimes I get it mixed up, even though I'm really good at math.
Look at these fancy sticks.
Yeah, you gotta have fun straws if you're gonna have a party or enjoy a cocktail, right? All right, so we are good to go. And the last thing, I'm gonna put some ice in each cup. And then the last thing, we're going to garnish it with a lime. Ooh, there we go. Have you had a Moscow Mule before?
Wow. I can truthfully say that I have never.
Okay, throw the straws in. Let's get this party started. Thank
You're
you.
doing such a good job.
You stir yours.
Oh, I have to stir my own?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Let's stir it up.
Is this more of a muddling or a stirring scenario?
You know, I think stirring because we have nothing in there to muddle, right?
Well, that's probably true.
All right, should we have a sip?
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, yum. That's good.
For those of you that remember, that's good coffee.
So I wanted to share a little bit about how we met because I had a business partner when I started Talent Q and she quit 8 months in. She had picked the accountant who I didn't really care for. I didn't get a good vibe. I had a wonderful friend who got me really connected in the Hudson area, and her name is Michelle Johnson. Mm-hmm. She took me to introduce me to all these people in her network, and we were at an event, I think a fundraising event in Hudson, and we had met, and I was just so excited because you were extremely outgoing, easy to talk to, you had these funny stories, and we just hit it off. And I thought, gosh, if I ever need an accountant, I'm calling you. Do you remember that?
I remember. I don't remember what the event was, but I remember it was a charity event, and
yeah,
and they usually provide a smattering of libations to loosen your purse strings. So,
so that's why you appeared outgoing?
Probably. Yeah.
That's funny. So Ben, what can we celebrate for you this week? What should we cheers to?
Well, Renee, last night I celebrated the 9th anniversary of my engagement to my bride, Dorothy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Drink to that. Now, tell us, pretend I'm a kindergartner. I'm sitting at my little desk. What do you do for a living?
Well, Reneeski, I help people like your mommy and daddy make decisions.
Awesome.
They have to choose things, and I help them think about their alternatives and pick what they want.
Awesome. I love that. And what did you want to be when you grew up?
Believe it or not, I grew up on a farm, and I always wanted to be a farmer. I was a little large to be an astronaut, so I settled with farming.
And then how did you venture down the accounting path by going to the University of Minnesota Duluth?
Well, the night I graduated from high school, my father passed away.
Oh, sorry.
The next day I turned 18, and I woke up and said, there's more to life than farming.
Oh, okay.
So I worked construction, and I was actually planning to become a veterinarian. And I got tapped that fall by my sister, who was starting a small tax practice in Duluth. And so I crammed my way through the H&R Block tax course, manned their office for them. And when the drinking age is 21 and you're 18 years old and you're 200 miles from your home, life is pretty boring. So at the end of March that year, I decided I would go to college, take a quarter at University of Minnesota Duluth. I registered late, so I got what was left. And one of those was an accounting class. And I said, well, this is easy, kind of like this. 3 years later, I graduated, and the rest is history.
So it's all like kismet. It was meant to be. Oh my gosh. Nobody wanted to take accounting, so that was the class that was left for you for registering late. How funny is that?
I should have been a little more strategic in my thinking, perhaps. Yes, that's why that class was open.
Hey, that's okay. You know, Ben, you're the owner of a successful accounting firm, and let's back up a little bit. I know you didn't start owning SFO right out the gate. So who did you go to work for in the beginning after your graduation?
Well, I was fortunate enough to graduate with a good GPA, so I had alternatives. In the accounting area, the firms actually come to the college to interview you.
Oh, so they're actively recruiting.
They're actively recruiting.
The new grads.
On campus. And so I had some alternatives, but I had heard the war stories of going to work for one of the it was the Big Eight at that time.
Oh, that's right.
Smaller.
Big Eight, now it's the Big Four.
But, and getting stuck on an audit in the middle of nowhere for 8 weeks. And I decided, it's really not what I wanted to do. And so I elected to go to work for a small national firm that primarily focused on smaller clients.
Okay.
And, probably $20 million of sales or less. That gave me the opportunity to continue doing tax work, which I enjoyed. I also focused on becoming an auditor at that time and did some computer work when the computers came along. And I got also to work with small business owners at that point in time, which is what I really enjoyed because I kind of like talking to people.
Sure. So then how did you decide to, get into this partnership with your current firm and be a business owner yourself?
Well, so after 5 years, I was an audit manager at that firm. And as you can expect, CPA firms, they tend to move a little slowly, and things were loosening up in our profession as far as marketing was concerned. I wanted to try a few things. That didn't set well with the national office, and so I chose the easy path, which was to leave.
Oh,
and
sure.
So I had known this other gentleman, and so I packed my bags and moved to New Richmond, Wisconsin, went into partnership with a fellow by the name of Richard Simma, and the firm was formed.
Awesome. Now, you definitely don't fit the mold. You tell great stories. You're extroverted. You can talk to people. What do you attribute that to, and how has that helped you in your career?
Well, I guess I would say I was born a poor fat kid. I don't know. It's probably kind of like in the car rental business, when you're number 2, you try harder. I think that was part of it. So you learn to be a little gregarious. I was the youngest of 5.
Sure.
And I think the other need was I had to find a way to pay for my college. And so for the last 3 years of my college, I ended up in a door-to-door commission sales job. So when you're knocking on doors and talking to strangers, they kind of peels a few layers of skin off, the thick skin.
Right.
And you learn to talk to people.
Right.
Or
So
you
it
go
was
hungry.
like rubber meets the road, feet on the street, door to door. Wow.
Yeah.
I remember my first job out of college, I sold insurance.
Oh, boy.
And I lived out of my car, and this was before we had technology so I had a map book
Yes.
in my car, all the marketing materials in my trunk, and I would go door to door, business to business, to try to ask for the controller to see if I could get their business card to then set up a time to quote their business insurance. And then I'd get home from doing that, or not home, back to the office in doing that. And then I would open the phone book and call out of the phone book to try to quote people's personal auto and homeowners insurance. Let me tell you.
And did that teach you anything?
Oh my gosh, talk about layers of skin.
Yeah.
I was standing there naked. I mean, it teaches you everything. I think that's where I got my grit and my tenacity.
You learn to either get the job done or go hungry. Right?
Absolutely. And we weren't going to go hungry, were we? No. There's so many different arenas and facets of accounting. How did you land deciding, how did you gravitate to the small business side? I mean, there's so many different disciplines within accounting itself.
Well, there's a lot more variety today than it was back when I started.
Okay.
I think that perhaps my personality type, they had done a study long ago with the 16 personality profiles, and 85% of the CPAs fit in one box. And guess what? It didn't start with an E. I'm sorry. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's kind of the nature of the beast.
Sure.
When you think about the work. So I enjoy talking to people. I grasp concepts quickly. And I enjoy trying to help my clients make decisions. I had the opportunity with the firm I work for of working with small business owners at a very early age. I always had the beard, and I had a little more hair, but not much. So I probably looked older at 23 and 24 than I was.
Sure.
So people, that probably helps a little bit. And so I've always kind of worked in that industry area of, small, medium-sized businesses.
Sure.
That, and they're the ones that need the most help. I mean, if you're working for United Healthcare,
Amen.
they got a lot more people there that are smarter than I am.
If I had the resources that the Amazons of the world have, I would be thrilled. Mm-hmm. How do you stay on top of all the changing laws that affect your business and then your clients?
Rum.
Vodka.
Vodka. Excuse me. It was the copper cup that got me. How do you stay on top? It's probably easier today than it was. Before, it was pretty much limited to massive amounts of reading. Obviously, as a CPA, we're required to have continuing professional education. Mm-hmm. We call it CPE for short. And a lot of industry professions have that. Mm-hmm. So that helps, where you can get kind of a more intense bite at a particular subject matter. And believe it or not, you gain a lot of knowledge just being in a firm of people. And so if you have 20, 30 people around you, they're all doing CPE.
Absolutely.
They're all learning things, and they share information. In this day and age, there are multiple sources. Communications and data and knowledge is almost instantaneous.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Google, or Alexa, or whatever.
Both.
Or yeah. Siri and I never get along. So
me either.
So.
I can't even get the function to work. And everyone's like, "Don't you have an Apple phone?" I'm like, "Yeah." Google first.
Yeah.
So that takes me to the next question. Technology has advanced. I mean, you've been in the working world for decades. Technology has advanced leaps and bounds. Do you miss the fax machine? I assume you used to fax in the tax returns at one point. Now you have a portal where your clients upload digitally.
Well, Renee, I don't want to burst your bubble, but when I started, we actually didn't have fax machines.
Oh, you didn't?
And do I miss them? Not the plain paper ones. Those old 3M rolls of paper, those were a real mess. And then when you put them in a file and 2 years later they disappeared.
Oops.
All the, just kind of faded to black,
Yeah.
faded to white.
Yeah.
So you had to make a copy of them in order to keep them. You learn that after the first couple of years. So technology, I embrace it. It's wonderful. It has. We've replaced 40 file cabinets in our office.
40.
With a little something in the cloud.
Yeah.
We use Thomson Reuters, Go File Room. The documents are there. If you get a tax return, we can publish it. You can download it. It's secure. And so you can get the information from anywhere, which enables you to be far more flexible where you're working and far more productive, as long as you have an open line of communication.
Right.
So that part of the technology stream has made us, I think, far more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Any free tax advice you can give our listeners?
I highly recommend that you file your return. And if you're one of those procrastinators and you don't have the money to pay your taxes, still file your return, because there's penalties for both late filing and for late payment. So you don't have to double dip. You'll be more than satisfied with one penalty. A couple of quick things for under the new rules, where far fewer of us can itemize their deductions unless we have a huge home mortgage, and at my age, you hope not to have a huge home mortgage. You can consider bunching deductions if you can get your mind around that. I have to work with people a little bit, but if you make, large contributions to the church, you can, make one in December and one in January, I should say, and then follow up with the next year's in December.
Oh, got
and
it.
That way you might get yourself. Retired people used to experience that scenario. Now a lot more people experience that scenario. So you can consider bunching your deductions for those people. And for people that are over 70 and a half, if they have an IRA and they have a charitable bent, you can make those required minimum distributions out of your IRA. You can make them directly to the charity. Need to get a receipt.
Oh, fascinating.
And
I didn't
so-
know that.
Oh, absolutely. And so it's a home run because you don't pick up the income and you still make the contribution to the charity.
Right. Great advice. So I know our journeys aren't all rainbows, snow cones, and unicorns like I wish they would be every day, right, Ben?
Absolutely.
But can you share a challenge that you faced in your career and how you overcame it?
I think probably, there's lots of challenges, but the one that sticks in my mind was when I made the decision to leave the firm that I started with and go out on my own. It was a tough decision at the time. Fortunately, my wife at that point in time was working. She was also a CPA. But we were thinking of starting a family, and so it was a tough choice. But I just felt that in order for me to move forward, I had to get out of the situation I was in.
Right.
And so I took the leap. Glad I did.
Awesome. Was there any point where you regretted it, or did you have any fear, and how did you overcome? How did you push yourself forward? Because a lot of people get scared, or they think, oh, I can't do this, or they have imposter syndrome, and then they don't do it. You know what I mean?
Yes. But, I guess in my situation, once I severed that cord, it was kind of like jumping up the ledge.
Sure.
You're going to hit the water.
Yep.
Hopefully you hit the water.
Yeah.
You're not going back.
Yep.
Unless you want to make the long crawl back up
Right.
the mountain. So you're not going back. You're committed. And it was scary. But we moved forward. And financially, I think it was a great decision.
Awesome. 9 times out of 10, normally it is, right? Normally people make more money once they start their own businesses and they're thriving and they're happier. So
I think if you're happy doing what you're doing, you're going to be successful.
absolutely. I totally agree. I never work a day in my life. I love what I do. So you're setting yourself up to enjoy retirement, and to all the baby boomers out there and others who are coming to that crossroads of retirement in the near future, what advice can you share with them?
Well, Renee is both a CPA and a SEPA, which is a Certified Exit Planning Advisor.
Oh, he's legit, folks.
I'm legit. I got it. And actually, that's the area of practice that I focus on now. I've worked with many of my clients for many, many years. The oldest client that I think I started working with them in 1974.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Goes back a ways.
Wow. I won't tell you I wasn't born yet.
I probably got you by a couple of years. The transition from being a business owner to retirement is complex. I'm transitioned from being a business owner, CPA in the profession, to doing what I do now, which is more of a consultant. And I can tell you that I pretty well failed retirement. It's not quite what it's cracked up to be, but I can speak from experience. So the focus for people, it's a three-legged stool. You know what's great about a three-legged stool?
There's 3 legs.
But if one of them is an inch shorter than the other one, you always have a solid foundation.
Oh, sure.
It doesn't rock. You might sit at a little bit of an
Yeah.
angle, but it's solid. So think of transitioning as a three-legged stool. So the first thing you need to do is you got to have a plan.
Absolutely.
If you want to better substantially increase the ability of you to obtain that plan, write it down. Believe it or not, it helps. Secondly, you need to determine what the green box is. This is how much money you need to do what you want to do in retirement.
Sure.
And there's lots of tools for helping you do that. We work with clients' financial planners. We, work with all their other professionals to put the team together to help them get from where they are to where they want to go. So figure out, I call it the green box because it's the color of money.
I love
Well,
money.
at least it's the color of money here.
Yeah.
So think of the green box. That's what you need to fill. And then the next part is to assess. So I got to fill the green box. I got to figure out what I have right now. Mm-hmm. So figure out what you have. And then generally what you're going to find for a business owner is that 85 to 95% of their wealth is tied up in their business. So they need to monetize that. And then they need to determine whether that's enough money to fill the green box.
Sure.
If it isn't, then we got to do some things to enhance the value of that business,
Sure.
which is part of the exit planning process. The third and most important part, the one that almost every entrepreneur forgets, and I can truthfully say that I probably didn't think about this much, although I seem to be weathering the storm, is you got to have a third act. So you're going to transition from working a lot of time in your business to not. Mm-hmm. And you need to think about, what are you going to do?
Right.
Once you make that move. And frequently, if you can start thinking about this 4 or 5 years ahead of time, you're way ahead of the curve, by the way. Maybe you got to take up golf, learn to fly, learn to sail. You have to find something else to spend your time on, or you'll be a disgruntled business owner. Something like 75% of the small business owners that sell their business regret it within a year.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that statistic.
It's
well, I
amazing.
tell everyone I'm going to work till I die because I want to stay active. Now, it's not going to be in a full-time capacity. However, I feel the moment you stop thinking or having a cause or having a purpose is when even your health declines, and I just want to stay sharp and active. So I definitely am going to have a third act.
Good. I'll work with you on that.
Perfect.
All right.
It's going to be a while, though.
It's
going to be a while.
I hope to still be around.
Yes, you will be. So outside of your accounting hat that you wear, I personally know that you love gardening and wine and cigars. So tell us, how do you find time for a garden? So this is a man who has a humongous greenhouse on his property, and he has a gardening party and was
the Dahlia adoption party.
Yes, Dahlia adoption. Tell us about the dahlias and the gardening and...
Well, I've cut back on the Dahlia adoption party, so I capped out at about 550 adoptees.
Wow.
And but I think people like you just came for the wine
Well,
and the cigars.
I don't know how to garden. So I'm one who will do pots out front of my house. I don't have a green thumb. I go to the greenhouse. I let my girls pick the flowers. We pot them in, and then I just water them every day, right?
Well, there you go.
But then I came to your party, and you're like giving me the actual plants, and then I potted them, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, where are the bulbs? And I was like, in my yard.
That's how you get to have the adoption the next year.
Right.
But so how do I find time? I grew up on a farm. I didn't learn a lot from my father, but a few key lessons. One was make hay while the sun shines. You can party at night. I tend to be an early riser, so that helps. And I like to keep busy. So I think all those things give me the ability to do what I do.
Sure. But then why dahlias specifically?
Why dahlias? Well, I needed to fill some holes in my garden. I went out and, I like most guys, like to browse Menards, and they had some on sale. And so it was late in the spring, so I planted them. Well, then I had to do a little research, and then I learned, you dig them up in the fall, you store them. And I converted one of my wine coolers to be a storage unit, so I lost very few bulbs. And so then they keep propagating, and then we learn to cut them up and slice and dice, you get more bulbs.
Oh, you cut them up. See, I would never know that.
Yeah. So you plant one bulb, you get 6.
Awesome.
Yeah, sometimes you get 2, sometimes you get more. And so they perpetuate, and that's hence became the Dahlia Adoption Party. And so I've now cut back. I probably have a few neighbors and stuff where I take care of some bulbs, and I, maybe give away 100 or so at the spring, and reduce my workload because it's a lot of work.
Got it. Now you spend winter or a month or two. You refresh my memory in Aruba, right?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. And how long have you been doing this? And tell me, how were you able to fit that into your business ownership and everything that you do?
Well, so I've been going to Aruba for over 20 years. I went down.
Cheers to that. I want to go to
strength.
Aruba for 20 years in a row.
I went down on kind of a fluke for the total eclipse of the sun that occurred in Aruba. That was way back when. I loved it. It's dry. I can tell you right now, it's probably 88 degrees, sunny and windy. And tonight, it'll be 78 degrees, dark, not quite so windy. Okay? So it's pretty consistent weather. You take a trip to Florida, you might get good weather, you might get bad weather in January. How do I work it in? Well, believe it or not, most people aren't that anxious to file their tax return. Believe it or not. So you don't get a lot of your stuff until the end of January anyway. So I used to go down the last week of January and the first week of February, and my function on the audit side was as a review partner rather than, unless it was a brand new engagement, I probably wasn't out there doing the actual field work. And so that stuff would all start rolling in about the middle of February. So it's make hay while the sun shines. Get down there, enjoy it, get back, because you're going to be working 80 hours a week for the rest of the season.
Right.
And so it actually fit well with my schedule. And now in the last few years, I take my computer with me. I plug in the internet. I'm still here. If you call my phone, it rings down there.
Awesome. I love technology. So what's the best advice you can give to our listeners on their careers, or what's the best advice you've ever received?
Well, believe it or not, I've gotten a lot of advice over the years. I've listened to some. I think one of my mentors said it well, and it also fit in with my background from a rural background. And his comment was, work smarter. Work hard, but work smarter. Okay? And if you work smarter, it's amazing how much more you can get done.
Absolutely.
And I think the other kind of focus I use for people is I go, worry about things that you can change.
Yeah.
Don't waste a lot of time worrying about things you can't change. Prepare for them.
Yeah.
Expect that they may happen. Have a plan, but don't worry about something that you can't change.
Absolutely. That's great advice. And thank you so much for coming on my show. It's been so much fun. For all of you hiring leaders who want the best tactics to find the best talent for your teams, go to careersandcocktails.com and download my free hiring guide. For all of you job seekers who want to amp up your job search, you can go there to find out where to purchase my book, I Hate Mondays, to help you find your next job. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell so you don't miss an update. Cheers!
Salud.